Thank you, everyone. My name is Anthony Cavada. I'm the Strategic Partner Manager with Nextiva. For those of you who didn't stop by our booth, Nextiva is a customer experience platform, that brings together all customer conversations, whether it's voice, whether it's video, whether it's messaging, email, and even social. Brings together all those conversations into a single AI platform powered by AI to improve and manage customer experience, to reduce cost, and to improve customer interactions. We believe that businesses can achieve amazing results when they have the right tools. That's why we built this platform to unify our customer communications and insights into one place. Our mission is to make it easy for every organization to design, deliver, and manage meaningful conversations and customers' experiences, even with complexity of legacy systems. As we close out this NECCF conference, we realize that contact center leaders face bigger challenges today with a constant change in environments and technologies and budget restraints. But more importantly, the restraints of dealing with 5 generations of working together, whether it's hybrid, whether it's virtual, or whether it's in person. Customer experience and your ability to foster collaboration, and create environments where both employees and customers feel confident and valued is more than critical than ever. Strong relationships we find, are the key foundation of a really successful, high-performing contact center. Bridging generational gaps and leveraging each other's strengths, unlocking new levels of engagement and innovation and customer satisfaction. This is how we future-proof teams and deliver personalized, consistent experiences that set our organizations aside. I've had the pleasure to get to know Penny Tremblay for the last couple of days. Penny is a distinguished Harvard-trained mediator, renowned workplace relationship expert, and creator of the Sandbox system. Penny's helped organizations throughout the entire North America to run workplace tensions and to take workplace tensions and create opportunities of growth. Penny's playful, practical approach makes complex challenges accessible and actionable, saving companies millions and transforming cultures. It is my pleasure to introduce you to our keynote speaker, Penny Tremblay.
Thank you. I don't need that. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you so much. And yes, with all this talk about AI, I am here to tell you that I am human, not a robot. I'm here in the flesh. I'm not a hologram coming in from somewhere else. And so thank you for having me here today. As Anthony said, I teach people how to play nice in the sandbox at work. And when they don't, I help them fix disconnected or broken relationships. And over the decade of working in this, deeper aspect of workplace conflict, it never ceases to amaze me how emotion and this human opportunity we have to feel with each other and have face-to-face conversations, authentic conversations, and really, get together and do what humans do best, which is connect on an emotional level. And I know each and every one of you has that potential too, because we're human. And I think we're craving that these days more than ever. Am I right or am I right? Yeah, let me hear that again. Oh, you guys awake way back there? Great. Okay. So one of the things that I know for sure is that relationships play an integral role in human engagement and retention. And they're like the glue that holds people to workplaces. And so it makes very good sense, dollars and cents, to invest in good relationships. Am I right? Yeah. And the good news is you don't need much of a financial budget to invest in relationships. but you do need energy and time budget. And how many of you are feeling a little bit like you're lacking time and energy? Well, I hope after today, it's going to seem very, very worthwhile to invest that time. My mission with the Sandbox system is to save the high cost of corporate conflict, which rings a bell of $718 billion annually in corporate North America. Is that huge? I mean, that's almost $1 trillion. What could we do with an additional $718 billion? We could do a lot, right? And what could you do with a slice of that? What could you do with a slice of that? Right? Make more money? Maybe have more resources, have more agents, buy multiple amounts of everything that all these NECCF sponsors are here demonstrating to you today, right? And so the payoff is worth it to really take a look at how might we save the high cost of corporate conflict, which, as you probably heard today, and Beth set this up really nicely, thank you, it's lack of engagement and retention that I want to focus on a little bit today. It's saving that cost of having to recruit and train and perhaps fail at, mishires and all of those costs that go into like having that revolving door in your call center. Because according to my research, New England call centers are individually spending between $800,000 and $1.7 million a year on turnover. Oh, that's a sad number. But we can change that, right? We can change that. The formula is simple but sobering. It costs approximately 50% of an employee's salary to replace them. And by the way, my slides might say agent, but that could say employee, period. Senior high-paid executive, jump ship. 50% of that. Wow, right? So that's the sobering formula. It costs half of an annual salary to turn over the position. And so what if we could use these relationship strategies to keep people twice as long? Possible? It's worth a try, right? The average agent stays under 2 years. And if you're managing a group of agents, I can only imagine that must be extremely stressful for you because you're constantly recruiting and training. But imagine they stayed twice as long. Well, you'd have twice as much stability and you'd have twice as much experience and you'd have an increased team morale as well as increased profit. So I hope that the payoff is exciting for you to use these as a holy shift moment. Like sometimes I just get these ideas or get these answers or results and I go, holy shift. Can you say that? Make sure you put the F in there, okay? Holy shift. This is a holy shift opportunity for us. And so today what I want to do is take you through, as Anthony said, a process learning about the multi-generational workplace and how to get people collaborating. Because as busy call centers, you have this very unique challenge of bringing 5 generations together. And as Anthony said, some are hybrid, some are remote, some are on site, some are here, some are there, some are new, some are experienced. So much diversity. But we also have 5 generations, all with their own perspectives, their own values, their own communication styles. So there's just so much that we can perhaps mix up a little bit. But we have to wholly shift our mindset as well. And 4 of the 8 strategies that I've written in my book, Sandbox Strategies for the New Workplace, we're going to go through the first 4, which is the PLAY. And we'll save the NICE for maybe next year. Okay, so here we go. Before we start, I want to tell you about a hack as a mediator that I've learned that really helps a lot. And this is a term coined by a gentleman named Kenneth Cloak, but it's omnipartiality. And what it is, it's a bias in favor of everyone, or a caring for of all parts of a system. All right, so we're not biased, we're impartial, but we're omnipartial. All right, so it doesn't matter the color of the shovel, which could symbolize the generation, the work from home, all of the different diversity. And so that is a hack that helps us suspend judgment. And why is that important? Well, Anthony told you already. Currently, we have 5 generations in the workplace. And I know that you're seeing 6 banners up here. The far right, the pink banner, these are the Generation Alphas. These are all current ages in 2025. So the alphas are between 1 and 15 years old. They're just peeking over the edge of the sandbox. But maybe next year or in a few years, they're going to be in the workplace too. And we're going to have 6 generations at work. So I'm hoping that you know which generation that you belong to. But I want you to take a moment to find yourself. Okay, everybody has a monitor close enough to them that you can see these ages, right? Can you see what generation you're in? Yes? Okay. Now I want you to look left and I want you to look right. And I want you to find proof that there are other generations around you. So the world doesn't just see everything through your generational lenses, right? And one of the ways that I use to understand and remember these generations and what years are what is I find people in my life who match the generation. So bam, there's my grandmother, there's my mother, there's me, there's my niece, there's my neighbor, okay? And that's how I remember them. So you found yourself? All right. One of the challenges that we have is that these perceptions and desires, they clash. But let's learn a little bit about how many of these people are actually in our workforce today. That teeny tiny sliver you see, that red sliver, that's the silent generation, 80 and up. And yes, there's still 1.5 million Americans at work today. I say because they've got millennials and Gen Zs sleeping on their couches and they want a day off. But anyways, no, it's because we're healthier. Right? We're living longer. And so we're still working. The millennials are taking up the biggest chunk, sandwiched by the Gen Xers and Gen Zs, and the baby boomers are moving on out. Now, that doesn't mean that if you're a baby boomer, you have permission to retire, because you can work as long as you want. But let's fast forward 10 years. Look what happens. 10 years from now, you see with the pie chart on the right, there are no projected baby boomers. However, that's just because AI hasn't figured out that we're all going to live longer. And it's not in the projections, but I assume that we will be seeing some baby boomers in that grid. But I think what I want you to pay close attention to is that the combination of alphas, the pink ones, and the Gen Zs, the turquoise blue, are going to make up over 50% of the workplace in a decade from now. And so what that means as organizations is that you're going to want to help adapt to technology, because these are highly technical generations, right? Flexibility. They want flex time, don't they? Right? And sustainable culture. They care about the sustainability of the planet. And so those are the things that we have to look forward to in serving that generation in 10 years. And as I said, generations clash. So let me explain by telling you a little bit about a workplace restoration that I did last year, just after the Christmas holidays. I meet everybody one-on-one first. Oh, by the way, workplace restoration It's like couples therapy, but for an entire department, okay? It's very, very joyful. And in walks Sebastian for his one-on-one interview. He shakes my hand with the confidence of a man who's never known dial-up internet. And then, the conversation's a little awkward. I'm trying to break the ice, being hip and cool, and I ask Sebastian the important question, hey, Sebastian, how do you manage conflict? Are you a talk it out kind of guy or a sweep it under the rug type? And he says to me, well, Penny, I think I'm pretty good at talking things out. But over the Christmas holidays, my mom and I had a conflict. And it's really bothering me because I live at home. And we're disconnected. And I said, oh, tell me about it. And he said, well, my cousin came home for the holidays for a visit. And my mom wanted me to give her a call. And I agreed to send her a text. And he said, but to my mom, that was unacceptable. She thought it was like sending smoke signals. And so we're disconnected. Now, here's where it gets good. Sebastian says, and I didn't want to ambush her with a phone call. Ambush. A phone call. Let that sink in. And so here's an example of how different generations communicate. Some like to call, some like to text, right? Well, as a Gen Xer myself with expertly hidden gray hair, I nearly choked on my herbal tea. I mean, ambush. And so my initial reactive bias judgment was ready to say, what? But instead, I put on my omnipartial lens and I said, Sebastian, do you think a phone call is an ambush? He said, yes, as if I just asked if water was wet. And then he launched into this, what seemed like a TED talk about it. He said, phone calls make me anxious. I mean, how am I supposed to prepare for a call when it's already ringing in my hand? And what makes somebody's priority to reach me more important than the priority I'm working on in the moment? And by the way, Penny, how do I prepare for those awkward silences that happen during phone calls? Well, I tossed and turned in my sleep that night, and I was having nightmares of like these phone-wielding baby boomers chasing terrified millennials. And then I came to an idea. I put on my omnipartial lenses, and I realized and remembered how the silent generation, they didn't even have phones. If they wanted to talk to somebody, they went up to their house and they knocked on their door and they had talked face to face. I mean, how else would they get a message other than sending a carrier pigeon? And then the baby boomers eventually had telephones. And so they like to call and communicate and keep relationships tight, right? Well, then the Gen Xers come along, and heaven forbid that you would show up at somebody's door without calling first, right? I mean, if my parents just showed up my door, I'd be really embarrassed because I wouldn't have time to clean up or at least hide the vodka. And then there's the millennials, and they grew up with things like call display and call waiting, so they could decide if they even wanted to pick up the phone because they had call answer and technology like that, right? Well, the Gen Zs, they don't knock or call. They just shoot a quick DM, maybe an emoji, which apparently tells a whole story. And if you do call them, they're going to ask you why you didn't text them first. So, which generation is correct? Which one's right? Who said all of them? You did. Ding, ding, ding. You're absolutely right. They're all right. When I think back about Sebastian, I realized that he was using his greatest knowledge to be respectful, to be efficient, and to suit his comfort and communication style. And so, we're all just trying to navigate our own generational quirks in this crazy world. So the next time you're tempted to judge somebody for their communication style, I suggest you put on your omnipartial lenses and try to see things through their eyes. Young generations today, they haven't had 10 or 20 or 30 decades of face-to-face communication practice, right? And so the next day, I made it a point of going to find Sebastian. And I admitted to him that I initially sided with the phone call. But after giving it some thought, that I respected his judgment and I respected his desires for efficient communication. And then I suggested that he call his mom, because nothing says I love you like subjecting yourself to that awkward silence. So we need to be accepting, and we need to be texting our children or our employees, even though it might go against our grain. And we definitely need to be calling our mothers, right? Okay. So these are the 4 strategies we're going to look at in more detail now that we understand that generations come with their own perceptions and values and desires. The first one is to position ourselves for good play. Well, imagine we're in the sandbox and we're all making a village of castles with roads. We're working on common ground, right? So I think that that's the best place to position yourself for good play, is recognize that we all want the same things, no matter what generation we're from, no matter what way we're doing our work. We all want the same things. So let's look at what some of those same things. We all want the most money possible for our positions, right? Am I right or am I right? We all want a good job. We want adequate time off. We want to have great vacations. We want a job that we enjoy, and we want to make a difference. So, just based on that, we all want similarities. We want the same thing. We might come at it differently, but at least we have common ground. And we also want to make a difference. We want to make a contribution. We all want to contribute to the big machine. And so one of the things that I know you can all do is create mentorship programs in your organizations where not only the senior generations mentor the junior generations with things like corporate knowledge and leadership skills and abilities, but the junior generations can mentor the senior generations with technology, right? So this cross-mentoring is going to solve a problem that I see time and time again when I do workplace mediations and restorations and help teams through team building and conflict resolution, is that people of all generations, of all stages of employment, brand new, right up to, been around forever, the OGs, people want to feel in on things. If you just pass new change down to a frontline worker and they're not in on things, there's pushback, right? And so that is why, because people want to feel like they're making a contribution. They want to feel in on things. They want to feel like they have a say. And so perhaps forming committees where you can get some older experience with new, fresh ideas, bam, put those together and create more diverse teams, committees, decision-making options, or, fact-finding options. The next tip is to lighten our load. And this is where we lighten our load of judgment and challenge biases and embrace our differences for stronger collaboration. Another very common challenge I hear about in workplaces is that we judge each other's work ethic. Am I right? Or am I right? How many of you wish that other people had a work ethic just like you? Show me your hands, right? Okay. Well, how many of you have heard things more around judging the younger people? Like, oh, when I first started my career, or when I got my first job, or when I was your age, or I walked to school in my bare feet, uphill, right? And if you were Canadian like me, definitely through snowstorms, right? Well, it seems that we've been judging generations since the beginning of time. This is nothing new. We've been judging generations since Socrates and the likes. And it's created this expectation that the younger generation is just not keeping up, right? But is it effective? Is it effective? It's not effective. Was my initial bias reaction to Sebastian's unwillingness to call effective? Nope, it was not. And so what we need to look at is how do we unpack those biases and see each other for who they are and what strengths they can bring, and stop judging people for how we think they should be. And in order to do that, you're going to need to put on your omnipartial generational lenses, perhaps, and see things through each generation so that you can seek to really understand who you're managing or who you're working with or who you're parenting, right? The third strategy we're going to learn today is about actively listening. We need to seek to understand people. We need to listen to understand, but most people just listen to respond, right? And this is habit. But in the CX industry, I must say, you guys are the best of anyone I've ever met. Your training to your CX agents is always about listening and restating what you heard and being empathic. And that's what generates that customer loyalty, right? Right? Okay. What if you did that same thing for each other in the workplace? Holy shift, right? Beth, you confirmed this to me when you came talk to me at the booth today. You said, and you didn't even know this was part of my keynote, and I said, oh, you just nailed a piece of it. We just because we know better, we don't always do better. And sometimes we get so comfortable with the people around us that we don't use the very training that we know works so well. What if you spent time to really listen, to seek to understand the people that you are managing, or that you are managing up, or your colleagues sideways, right? Really seeking to listen to them. That's step one in any mediation that I do, is really getting parties understanding each other. And that is a holy shift moment for you to think about, how do we retain our people longer? Listen to them. Don't finish their sentences. Don't think you know the answer. Maybe you do, but you want them to think that they came up with it. Or you want to really understand them. Like if you want to know who's playing in the sandbox, you really got to get to know who they are, how they think, how they feel, what generational lenses they're looking through, what's their personality style. And yes, it's a lot of work. But so is training that next person instead of losing the one that you're not spending time with. I can only imagine the stories that you folks have to listen to, though, as customer service managers or agents, because I'll never forget calling a 1-800 pizza delivery service. And because I'm somewhat of a picky eater, I said to the guy, as soon as he answered the phone, I said, "Excuse me, sir, can you tell me about your spicy sausage?" Oh my God, did I just say that? I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I just asked somebody about their spicy sausage. I was so embarrassed. And I think he was too. But one thing I knew for sure is that I had his full attention. And I could feel his empathy through the heat in my ear. Well, I can only imagine the challenging calls that you have to deal with. And I want to tell you that the work that I deal with in workplaces today, civility is at an all-time low. So kudos to you for not just having to laugh at spicy sausage calls and having to deal with the real thick of things. But actively listening is your strategy. So same thing with the workplace. Help people feel understood. When we're listening, we also want to listen for things that aren't being said. And for example, a new graduate, couple of degrees, comes in, brand new, first day. He gets this paper onboarding package about that thick, and he says, hey, how come you don't have this digitized? And his answer is, because that's the way we've always done things around here. That's not going to attract and retain your new generations. They don't want to hear that. That is not an empathic response. That sounds like fit in or fit out. And I don't know why you got a degree, because none of it matters here, because we're just old school. An empathic response could have been, that's a great idea, Johnny. We could really use your genius and technical skills to help us grow. Does that not sound like a better approach, right? Helps him feel in on things, helps him feel worthy, valuable, like he's going to make a difference. But we do that, don't we? Also, when we're listening, one of the things I've learned about communication between humans is that your communication can only be as good as your understanding of the person you're communicating with and why it matters to them. So again, as you're communicating with people, try to put yourself in their perspective of their generation, perhaps, where they're coming from, how long they've been with the company, and so on, and why it matters to them. For example, work-life balance. It matters to all of us, right? Years ago, it was just a mummy in the workplace thing 50 years ago. But now, hey, mummies and daddies are both managing children. But more importantly, we all want to make space for other things. Like, we're not just living to work, right? So to your older generations, like your boomers and your Gen Xers, we want work-life balance, but your Gen Zs and your millennials, they demand it. They demand work-life balance. And so that's where the flexibility comes in. Their job is important to them, but it's not the whole thing. It's just a slice of who we are, right? It's not the whole pie. And so with so many generations as call centers that have a very busy call load, when you're talking about how are we going to satisfy this generation of customers? Because if people are living longer and the alphas are growing up, well, that means that you need to serve a large, diverse population of customers as well. And that's where Nextiva's social listening capability platform brings in demographics in multi-channels in real time to help your frontline agents. Really do that listening. We need to listen first and understand the situation before we can formulate something of value. And the last strategy is yielding to your why. Your why. Why are you here? Why do you have the job you do? This is valuable because your why power is way stronger than your willpower. And there's going to be bad days, right? Am I right? Are there bad days? Okay, not here. But there are some days that are just really challenging, and you need to pull energy from like an empty tank, it seems. And that's where your why will help you stay grounded through those sandstorms. Or that's where your why will help you find the energy to go and build those relationships, or sit and listen and help people that you serve understand that you really care about them. Because when you build relationships that entice people to want to stay twice as long, you're going to be able to take that 2-year average and double it, or maybe even quadruple it. And that will make retention your company's competitive advantage. Does that sound amazing? Yeah, right? It's worth working on, right? It's worth taking that extra time. And when your employees feel that they matter to you and the company, but you are the company. Like sometimes it's even just one person at work that somebody is so loyal and connected to that even though they've been headhunted or they have other opportunities, they're not going to go because they have connection. And that's where it's worth it. It's worth the time. And so the 4 strategies that we've covered today, they're not just feel-good strategies and good for people. They're good for your bottom line as well. As I said earlier, relationships are integral to human engagement and retention. They're the glue that holds people to workplaces. And so it makes sense, dollars and cents, to invest in building peaceful and profitable relationships at work and beyond. And beyond. Because all of these strategies work in your personal lives too. And I'll tell you, peace at home is priceless. The opposite, very costly. So I hope that when you go back, you understand how you can take tools and you can take these strategies and you can put them together and really create that competitive advantage of helping engage and retain your people. And my husband, Trent, and I, we have customized a song for you to end this fantastic NECCF 2025 Expo. And so I need you all to stand up and spread out so you don't poke anyone in the eye, because we've got some hand gestures, okay? All right? Now, there's only one thing that you need to know. If you're in the very back, I want you to look at my husband, Trent. He'll demonstrate for you. If you're in the front, you can look at me. This is the letter P, okay? Can you do that? Okay, so it's arm over your head. I know it's a bit of a stretch. No hernias, all right? Okay. All right, you got that? Okay, you want to do one on the other side just to make it even? Okay, that's the letter P. Now, that's all I'm going to tell you because I know you're very smart people and you're going to be able to figure it out karaoke style, okay? Are we ready? Okay. Okay, everybody ready? Turn up the volume, please. Okay, ready? Louder? Okay, you got to sing with me now. Young one. I was once in your shoes. I said I had the call center blues. I felt no one would stay at their job. It made managing so hard. That's when someone came up to me and said, young one, you should work with Penny. She will teach you how it's fun to play nice. You won't even have to think twice. Boom, 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 boom. Here we go. Fun to work with the P-L-A-Y. Yeah. P-L-A-Y. We can position ourselves. We can lighten our load. Actively listen to our wine grow. You guys got this. P-L-A-Y. P-L-A-Y. You got it. We can position ourselves. We can lighten our load. Actively listen to our wine grow. Oh, yeah. You guys are good. Oh, you got this. And now you've got it in your bones, right? And you've got it in an earworm. I have a comprehensive handout for you today. It's a 12-page white paper. It's very fun and informative, all about the 5 generations at work, and 12 pages of education. You just need to scan the QR code. The code to access it is PROFIT with a capital P, and it will be delivered with the exception of a few, after you answer a few questions. Now, for your singing and dancing excellence, you are getting a copy of my book. So, compliments of NECCF and Nextiva has had books at their booth all day, which I've been signing. I'd be so happy to sign your book. If you ever need some help, please don't hesitate to reach out and give me a call. I want to thank Erin McGinnis for referring me today. Erin, are you here? And thank you so much. And I want to thank Stacy and all the board at NECCF for accepting my proposal to be here today, and to Nextiva for sponsoring this.